Hello guys, welcome to Phoenix What If. So in this video, we will see, what if Naruto was the reincarnation of Indra and Ashura and got a harem from both clans? If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. #Twi, End Souls. The Dual Heir of Sage ## Chapter 1. Awakening Legacy. The moon hung full and bright over Konohagakure, casting silver light through the window of Naruto Uzumaki's small apartment. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he thrashed against tangled sheets, caught in the grip of a dream unlike any he'd experienced before. Two figures stood on a battlefield scorched by chakra, one with eyes that spiraled into crimson patterns, the other surrounded by golden energy that took the shape of a massive ethereal warrior. Brothers facing each other across an ideological divide that had lasted generations. The same scene, repeated through countless lifetimes with different faces but identical souls. Naruto jolted awake, gasping. For a moment, his right eye burned with strange heat while his left hand tingled with energy. He stumbled to the bathroom mirror, splashing cold water on his face. What the hell was that? He muttered, gripping the edges of the sink. For a fleeting second, his reflection how'd something impossible. His right eye flickered red with the faint outline of a tomo pattern before fading back to blue. He blinked hard, dismissing it as a trick of the light. But deep within, something had shifted. Like two dormant pieces of himself had begun stirring awake. "You look like crap, Naruto," Shikamaru observed lazily as Naruto approached the training grounds the next morning. "Rough night, just weird dreams," Naruto said, rolling his shoulders. "Ready to spar?" Shikamaru raised an eyebrow. Naruto usually launched into detailed accounts of his dreams, especially the bizarre ones. "Sure, but I'm not going all out this early." They squared off on the practice field. Naruto settled into his fighting stance, but something felt different. His body seemed to remember movements he'd never learned, positioning his feet and hands with unfamiliar precision. When Shikamaru's shadow jutsu shot toward him, Naruto didn't react with his typical improvisation. Instead, he moved with calculated efficiency, as if he could see the trajectory before it formed. His counter was swift and precise, too precise for his usual fighting style. "Since when did you get so technical?" Shikamaru asked, genuine surprise breaking through his typically bored expression. "That was different." Naruto paused, equally confused. "I don't know. It just felt right." A sudden headache lanced through his skull, bringing with it a flash of memory that wasn't his, hands forming seals he'd never learned, eyes that could see chakra pathways like glowing rivers beneath the skin. "You okay?" Shikamaru stepped closer, concern replacing his surprise. "Yeah," Naruto muttered, rubbing his temples. "Just need some water." As he reached for his canteen, his hand passed through a beam of sunlight. Gall, Den energy, visible only to him, briefly outlined his fingers before disappearing. Something was definitely wrong. In the shadows of the Hokage Tower, a figure in a gray cloak observed the exchange through a specialized spyglass. Chakra fluctuations consistent with awakening, the figure whispered into a small communication device. "Both signatures present but unstable. Continue observation," came the reply, voice distorted through the device. "The convergence candidate must be monitored closely. The Council of Arbiters will convene at moonrise." 3 days later, the visions had only intensified. Naruto sat cross-legged on his apartment floor, trying to meditate as Iruka-sensei had once taught him. His concentration shattered when another memory, no, not a memory, something else, flooded his mind. A man with ringed eyes bestowing power upon two kneeling sons. "Indra, your eyes will see the truth of all things. Ashura, your body will become the vessel of boundless energy. Brothers who would become enemies across time." Naruto's eyes snapped open as someone knocked on his door. He rose unsteadily, the names, Indra and Ashura, still echoing in his mind. Tsunade stood outside, arms crossed, her expression an unusual mixture of concern and scientific curiosity. "Sakura mentioned you've been acting strange," she said without preamble. "She said you formed 3 Ado clones yesterday without using the hand sign." Naruto leaned against the doorframe. "Been having some weird episodes, I guess." "Probably nothing." Nothing doesn't make your chakra spike enough for me to sense it from my office. Tsunade pushed past him into the apartment. Sit down. I'm checking you over. Her hands glowed green with diagnostic jutsu as she placed them on either side of his head. Immediately, her eyes widened. What the hell? She muttered. Bad, not bad, she said slowly. Just impossible. Her fingertips traced patterns over his chakra pathways, focusing particularly on the flow around his eyes and heart. You have two distinct chakra signatures, she finally said, sitting back. One feels like an Uchiha. Sharp, precise, almost electric. The other is warm and expansive. Reminiscent of. She hesitated, the first Hokage. Naruto stared at her. That doesn't make any sense. No, it doesn't. Tsunade's eyes narrowed. Unless, there are old stories. Legends. About the Sage of Six Paths and his sons. I've been seeing them in dreams, Naruto admitted. Two brothers who kept fighting lifetime after lifetime. Tsunade's face paled slightly. You need to come with me. Now. Where? The sealed archives. There's something you need to see. The sealed archives lay beneath the Hokage monument, accessible only to the Hokage and select elders. Shelves of ancient scrolls stretched into the darkness, illuminated only by special seals that activated in their presence. Tsunade moved with purpose toward the oldest section, where dust lay thick on scrolls that hadn't been touched in generations. She withdrew one sealed with both Senju and Uchiha symbols. Few know this exists, she said, her voice hushed by the weight of history surrounding them. It chronicles the origin of both clans and a prophecy passed down from the sage himself. She performed a complex series of hand seals before the scroll unfurled. Ancient script transformed into modern language under her chakra. Naruto leaned forward, reading aloud. When the eternal cycle falters and the brothers' souls converge in one vessel, the true heir will arise. Blood of both lines will be drawn to the convergence, and the forgotten child shall return to claim what was denied. This prophecy was dismissed as metaphorical, Tsunade said, scanning further down the scroll. But your chakra, Naruto. I think you're carrying the souls of both Indra and Ashura. Naruto's head spun. That's impossible. Reincarnation doesn't work that way. According to this, it happened once before, generations ago. Tsunade pointed to another passage. The vessel couldn't contain both souls and, she stopped abruptly. And what? Naruto demanded. Self-destructed, she finished grimly. The conflict. Ting chakras tore the vessel apart from the inside. The information hit Naruto like a physical blow. So I'm what? A ticking time bomb. I don't know, Tsunade admitted, rolling the scroll with careful hands. But we need to find out more about this convergence, and what it means. She fixed him with a stern gaze. Until then, tell no one about this. Not even Kakashi or Sakura. As they emerged from the archives, neither noticed the shadow that detached itself from the ceiling, slipping away through ventilation shafts with practiced ease. That night, Naruto couldn't sleep. He paced his apartment, periodically checking his reflection for any signs of the red eye he'd glimpsed days earlier. His mind raced with questions no one could answer. Why him? Why now? What did blood of both lines mean? A soft tap at his window interrupted his thoughts. A crow perched on the sill, its eyes unnaturally intelligent. When Naruto approached, it dropped a small scroll from its beak before disappearing into the night. The message was brief. Tomorrow. Uchiha Memorial. Dawn. Come alone. No signature, just a small fan symbol, the Uchiha crest. The Uchiha Memorial stood on the outskirts of what had once been the clan's compound. Now it was a quiet garden surrounding a stone monument engraved with the names of those lost in the massacre. Dawn light filtered through cherry trees as Naruto approached cautiously. A woman stood before the memorial stone, her back to him. Long dark hair fell past her shoulders, and she wore civilian clothes rather than ninja attire. When she turned, Naruto nearly stumbled in shock. Makoto Uchiha, she smiled gently, though her eyes held caution. Not quite. I'm her sister, Miyuki. Few knew of me because I left the village before the massacre. She looked remarkably like Sasuke's mother, the same elegant features and calm demeanor, though her eyes held a hardness earned through years of survival. Why did you call me here? Naruto asked, maintaining distance. Because I felt it, she said simply. 3 nights ago. A chakra signature I haven't felt in generations. Naruto's muscles tensed. What do you mean? Indra's chakra. Miyuki stepped closer, studying him intently. But there's something else too, something that shouldn't be possible. You carry both, don't you? Indra and Ashura. Naruto's silence was confirmation enough. How did you survive? She asked. The conflicting chakras should have torn you apart by now. Maybe being a Jinchuriki helps, Naruto suggested. I'm used to containing powerful chakra that isn't mine. Miyuki nodded slowly. Perhaps. Or perhaps you're simply the one the prophecy foretold. She reached into her sleeve and withdrew a small black box. This belongs to you now. It contains Indra's first technique. UES, the foundation of what would become the Sharingan. Naruto hesitated. Why would you give me this? Because the Uchiha blood runs in your veins, whether you know it or not. Her statement landed like a physical blow. That's not possible, Naruto protested. My father was Minato Namikaze, and my mother was Kushina Uzumaki. Bloodlines are complicated, Miyuki said cryptically. The Uzumaki Sea land shares distant ancestry with the Senju, which means Ashura's blood. And as for Indra's line, she paused. Have you ever wondered why you were able to connect so deeply with Sasuke? Why your rivalry felt like something ancient? Before Naruto could respond, his senses flared with warning. He tackled Miyuki to the ground as 3 kunai embedded themselves in the memorial stone where she had been standing. 5 masked figures dropped from the trees, each wearing gray cloaks emblazoned with a symbol Naruto didn't recognize, a stylized eye within a broken circle. The Arbiters, Miyuki hissed, pulling herself up. They've found you sooner than I expected. The leader stepped forward. Miyuki Uchiha, you interfere with matters beyond your understanding. His voice was cold, measured. The convergence candidate must be evaluated by the council. You mean dissected, Miyuki spat. I know your methods, Arbiters. You fear what you can't control. Naruto stepped between them. I don't know who you people are. But threatening an Uchiha at their own memorial isn't winning you any points. The leader tilted his masked face. You speak of things you don't comprehend, Vessel. The balance must be maintained. The brothers' souls must remain separate as the sage intended. Well, they're not, Naruto replied, feeling both chakras stirring within him. So you'll have to deal with it. The leader signaled, and the Arbiters moved with inhuman coordination. Their jutsu was unlike anything Naruto had seen, not bound to elemental nature but focused on disrupting chakra itself. Naruto created shadow clones instinctively. But as the first Arbiter struck, something unexpected happened. His body moved with Indra's precision, eyes suddenly sharp enough to track the slightest movements. When he counter-attacked, his fist carried Ashura's overwhelming force, sending the Arbiter crashing through a tree. Inside him, the 2 chakras surged in opposition, threatening to tear him apart from within. Pain lanced through his skull as his right eye burned, partially activating a Sharingan he shouldn't possess. They're trying to force a chakra overload. Miyuki called, engaged with 2 Arbiters herself. Her hands flew through seals, summoning fire that burned blue-white with intensity. Naruto struggled to control the conflicting energies as he fought. Each time he tapped into one brother's power, the other's chakra would surge in opposition. The pain intensified until his vision blurred. The leader of the Arbiters appeared before him, hands forming complex seals. Your existence threatens the cycle. We will extract and separate the souls by force if necessary. Chakra suppression seals appeared on his palms as he lunged for Naruto's chest. In that moment of crisis, something broke within Naruto, or rather, something finally aligned. Instead of fighting the conflicting chakras, he surrendered to both simultaneously. Power exploded outward in a blast that knocked the Arbiters back. Naruto stood in the center of a crater, his right eye blazing with a single Tomo Sharingan while his left glowed golden with Ashura's essence. Around him swirled a visible manifestation of chakra, half electric blue, half golden sunlight, that took the partial form of a massive warrior. The Arbiters faltered, clearly unprepared for this development. Impossible, the leader whispered. He's stabilized both signatures. Naruto stepped forward, voice resonating with dual undertones. I don't want to fight you, but I won't let you treat me like an experiment. Leave, now. The leader studied him for a long moment before signaling retreat. The council will hear of this development. Your evaluation is not complete. Convergence. As quickly as they had appeared, the arbiters vanished, leaving Naruto and Miyuki alone in the damaged memorial garden. The extraordinary chakra faded, and Naruto dropped to one knee, exhausted. His eyes returned to their normal blue, though the experience of the Sharingan's clarity lingered in his mind. Miyuki approached cautiously. That shouldn't have been possible. No one has ever controlled both chakras simultaneously. I don't think I controlled them, Naruto admitted, catching his breath. It was more like, I stopped forcing them to compete and let them work together. She helped him to his feet. The arbiters won't give up so easily. They've monitored the reincarnation cycle for centuries, ensuring Indra and Ashura's souls remain separated. You represent everything they fear, a break in the pattern they've dedicated themselves to maintaining. Who are they exactly? An ancient order founded during the sage's lifetime. They believe the separation of the brothers' souls is necessary for world balance. Miyuki's expression darkened. But there are rumors some of them serve a different master, one who has manipulated the reincarnation cycle for their own purposes. Naruto picked up the black box she'd offered earlier, which had fallen during the battle. You said Uchiha blood runs in my veins. What did you mean? Miyuki hesitated. It's complicated, and not my secret to reveal fully. But know this, the Uzumaki clan has connections to both the Senju and Uchiha that have been deliberately obscured over generations. That's why you can handle both chakras without self-destructing. I need real answers, Naruto insisted. And you'll get them, came a new voice from behind them. They turned to find a blonde woman approaching through the trees, her steps measured and confident. The Senju clan symbol adorned her traditional robes, though she was too young to be one of the elders Naruto knew. Hanako, Miyuki acknowledged with a slight nod. I wondered when the Senju would make an appearance. Tsunade sent word about unusual chakra signatures, the woman, Hanako, explained. She studied Naruto with intelligent eyes that reminded him of the first Hokage's portraits. So it's true. The convergence has begun. I'm getting really tired of cryptic statements and prophecies. Naruto said, frustration mounting. Who exactly are you? Hanako Senju, last direct descendant of Hashirama's bloodline, she introduced herself with a formal bow. And like Miyuki, I've been waiting for the convergence candidate to emerge. Naruto looked between the two women. So both clans knew about this prophecy. Only certain members, Hanako clarified. Those tasked with watching for signs. We've been expecting someone for generations, though none of us anticipated it would be you, Naruto Uzumaki. Why not me? Hanako and Miyuki exchanged glances. Because the vessel was expected to be born of both bloodlines directly, Hanako explained. Your connection is more distant. Unless there's something about my parents nobody's telling me, Naruto said pointedly. Miyuki sighed. We should continue this conversation somewhere safer. The arbiters will regroup, and next time they'll come in greater numbers. My family maintains a sanctuary outside the village, Hanako offered. It's protected by seals passed down from the first Hokage himself. We can speak freely there. Naruto hesitated, looking at the Uchiha memorial stone, now scarred from battle. I need to tell Tsunade what happened. She's meeting us there, Hanako assured him. Along with someone else who may have answers about your unique situation. The Senju Sanctuary was hidden deep in the forests surrounding Konoha, concealed by genjutsu so powerful that Naruto would have walked straight past if not guided by Hanako. Ancient trees formed a natural cathedral a modest compound built in traditional style, with symbols carved into the wooden beams that seemed to pulse with chakra. Inside, Tsunade waited in a meeting room decorated with the history of the Senju clan. Beside her sat a red-haired woman Naruto didn't recognize, her intense gaze fixed on him the moment he entered. You felt the chakra signature too, the redhead stated without preamble, addressing Naruto directly. That's why you came to the archives with Tsunade. Naruto, this is Karen Uzumaki, Tsunade introduced. One of the few remaining Uzumaki clan members with the ability to say NSE chakra signatures across vast distances. You're an Uzumaki. Naruto stared at her with newfound interest. Family, even distant, was something he'd always longed for. One of the last, Karen confirmed. And I felt your chakra change 3 nights ago. It was like a beacon to those of us sensitive to such things. Miyuki placed the black box on the table between them. He successfully channeled both signatures during the Arbiter attack. Simultaneously, Tsunade's eyes widened. That shouldn't be possible, and yet it happened, Miyuki countered. Which suggests the prophecy is indeed about him. What prophecy exactly? Naruto demanded. I've heard about the convergence, but nobody's explained what it actually means. Hanako retrieved an ancient scroll from a concealed compartment in the wall. Unlike the one Tsunade had shown him, this one bore the symbols of both Senju and Uchiha clans alongside the spiral of the Uzumaki. The complete prophecy, she explained, carefully unrolling it on the table. Parts were kept by each clan to ensure no single group could interpret or manipulate its meaning. The combined text was longer than what Naruto had read in the archives. When the eternal cycle falters and the brothers' souls converge in one vessel, the true heir will arise. Blood of both lines will be drawn to the convergence, and the forgotten child shall return to claim what was denied. 6 paths will become one path, and the eyes that once divided shall unite what was broken. The vessel born of sundered bonds shall reforge the chain, but beware the arbiter of false Bala. NCE who serves the shadow beneath shadows. The forgotten child, Naruto repeated. Who is that supposed to be? That's what troubles us, Tsunade said grimly. Historical records mention only 2 sons of the Sage of 6 Paths, Indra and Ashura. But this prophecy suggests a third child existed. One denied inheritance, Miyuki added. Which would explain the motivation to manipulate the reincarnation cycle. Karen leaned forward. The prophecy says, blood of both lines will be drawn to the convergence. Is that why we all felt compelled to find him? Possibly, Hanako acknowledged. Each O.F. shares blood connections to either Indra or Ashura's lineage. Naruto's head was spinning with implications. So I'm somehow carrying 2 souls that have been reincarnating separately for generations. And now people from both bloodlines are being drawn to me because of it. That's an oversimplification, but essentially correct, Tsunade confirmed. And there's some forgotten child. Who am I? GHT be manipulating everything from the shadows. He continued. Who may have infiltrated or even founded the arbiters, Miyuki added. Naruto rubbed his temples. Great. So not only am I dealing with 2 competing souls inside me, but I've got an ancient shadow organization hunting me and a mysterious manipulator pulling strings. There's more, Karen said quietly, her eyes fixed on Naruto with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. Your chakra, it's not just Indra and Ashura's signatures overlapping. They're merging in places, creating something new. Is that dangerous? He asked. Unknown, Tsunade admitted. This is unprecedented. The previous attempt at convergence failed because the souls remained in opposition. But you've somehow created harmony between them, at least momentarily. It nearly killed me, Naruto pointed out, and I can't exactly go around with one Sharingan and one glowing gold eye without attracting attention. Hanako nodded thoughtfully. You'll need training to control both aspects. The Sharingan abilities from Indra's chakra and the life force enhancement from Ashura's. I can help with the Sharingan techniques, Miyuki offered. Though I'm not as skilled as some were. And I can guide you through the Senju chakra control methods, Hanako added. But we'll need to proceed carefully. Push too hard in either direction, and the balance could collapse. Tsunade stood, her decision made. We'll create a cover story, a training mission outside the village. It will give us time to help Naruto develop control without the arbiters or anyone else interfering. What about the forgotten child? Naruto asked. Shouldn't we be trying to figure out who that is? One thing at a time, Tsunade counseled. First, you need to stabilize your condition. Then we can worry about ancient conspiracies. As they continued discussing logistics, no one noticed Karen's troubled expression as she studied Naruto's chakra flow. She could see something the others couldn't. Threads of a third chakra signature, dormant but present, weaving between the patterns of Indra and Ashura. Something ancient, patient, and calculating. 3 days later, Naruto stood in a secluded clearing deep within Senju territory. The morning mist clung to the ancient trees surrounding him as he attempted to access Indra's chakra under Miyuki's guidance. Focus on your eyes, she instructed. The Sharingan begins as a feeling of pressure behind the eyes, then spreads outward. Naruto concentrated, trying to isolate the electric feeling chakra he'd accessed during the battle. A sharp pain lanced through his right eye. Don't force it, Miyuki cautioned. Indra's power responds to perception and need, not brute force. Easy for you to say, Naruto muttered, massaging his temple. You were born with this chakra. Actually, I wasn't, Miyuki corrected. I was born with the potential for it. The Sharingan must be awakened through emotional catalyst or extreme need. Naruto sighed, taking a moment to center himself. Let me try something different. Rather than focusing solely on his eyes, he reached for the memory of the battlefield, the moment when both chakras had aligned briefly. He visualized the brothers not as opponents, but as complementary forces. His right eye burned, then cooled as the familiar clarity of the Sharingan activated. The world sharpened into focus, chakra becoming visible as flowing currents. Good, Miyuki approved. Now hold it steady without allowing Ashura's chakra to rise in opposition. Easier said than done. The moment the Sharingan stabilized, Naruto could feel Ashura's energy stirring in response, like a reflex. He struggled to maintain balance, sweat beading on his forehead. Why do they fight each other so much? He asked through gritted teeth. Centuries of opposition, Miyuki explained. Their conflict became encoded in the chakra itself. Indra believed power and skill were paramount, that the world needed strong leadership and vision. Ashura believed in cooperation and shared strength, that people working together could accomplish more than any single gifted individual. They both sound right in different ways, Naruto observed. Miyuki's expression softened. Perhaps that's why you can hold both. You understand the value in each perspective. The Sharingan flickered and faded as Naruto's concentration broke. He sat heavily on the ground, exhausted from the effort. This would be easier if I knew more about them as people, not just philosophies, he said. There are stories, Miyuki acknowledged. Accounts passed down through the Uchiha clan about Indra's life. But they're fragmented, colored by generations of retelling. I want to hear them anyway. She hesitated, then nodded. Very well, it's said. Indra was the prodigy, gifted beyond measure in all ninja arts. Everything came naturally to him, from chakra control to creating new jutsu. He rarely needed help and grew accustomed to solving problems alone. Sounds lonely, Naruto commented. It was. When his father began training Ashura alongside him, Indra initially tried to help his younger brother. But the sage focused more attention on Ashura, who struggled with the same techniques Indra mastered easily. He got jealous. Not at first. He grew concerned. In Indra's mind, leadership required exceptional ability. When the sage began icing Ashura's collaborative approach over Indra's individual brilliance, he saw it as a dangerous lowering of standards. Naruto considered this. So from Indra's perspective, he was trying to maintain high standards for the good of everyone. Exactly. His intentions weren't malicious, but his methods became increasingly harsh. He believed strength sometimes required ruthlessness. The conversa. Chion paused as Hanako approached through the trees, carrying scrolls under her arm. Making progress? She asked. Some, Miyuki answered. He activated the Sharingan briefly, but maintaining it while suppressing Ashura's chakra proves difficult. Hanako nodded. Perhaps we're approaching this wrong. Instead of suppressing one to use the other, we should look for ways they can work in tandem. Is that even possible? Naruto asked. Theoretically. Hanako set down her scrolls. The Uzumaki clan specialized in chakra harmonization techniques, ways to blend different chakra natures or sources. If we adapted those methods, it's worth trying, Miyuki agreed. Forcing opposition clearly isn't working. Hanako helped Naruto to his feet. These scrolls contain the basics of Senju chakra control. While Miyuki's teaching you Sharingan techniques, I'll help you understand how Ashura's chakra functions. They spent the afternoon alternating between practices, Miyuki guiding Naruto through the precise chakra control needed for Sharingan techniques, Hanako teaching him the expansive, nature-oriented methods of the Senju. By sunset, Naruto could maintain the Sharingan for nearly a minute before the competing chakras forced him to release it. Progress, but not enough to be useful in combat. As they sat resting by the campfire that evening, Karen joined them, her expression troubled. I've been analyzing the chakra patterns, she announced without preamble. There's something unusual happening. More unusual than two reincarnated souls in one body? Naruto asked wryly. Yes, she said seriously. The chakra isn't just existing in parallel. It's creating connection points, bridges between signatures that shouldn't be compatible. Is that dangerous? Miyuki asked. Not dangerous, Karen said slowly. But unprecedented. It's as though the chakra is trying to reconcile the brothers' conflict through Naruto. Hanako's eyes widened with sudden understanding. The prophecy mentioned, he vessel born of sundered bonds shall reforge the chain. What if that's literal? What if Naruto's purpose isn't just to contain both souls, but to heal their division? A tense silence fell over the group. That's a lot of pressure to put on someone, Naruto finally said, staring into the flames. Fixing a feud that's lasted through multiple lifetimes. You won't have to do it alone, Karen said firmly, surprising herself with the intensity of her declaration. She blushed slightly when everyone looked at her. I mean, we're all involved now. The prophecy said blood of both lines would be drawn to the convergence. She's right, Miyuki agreed. Each of us represents part of this legacy. Together, we might accomplish what couldn't be done individually. Naruto looked around at the women, each connected to him through ancient bloodlines he hadn't known about days ago. It was strange how quickly their presence had begun to feel necessary, as if fragments of himself recognized fragments of them. Tomorrow we try the harmonization techniques, he decided. If I'm supposed to reconcile these chakras, fighting against either one is the wrong approach, unknown to the group around the campfire. They were being observed. In the darkness beyond the clearing, a masked figure crouched on a tree branch, recording their conversation through a specialized jutsu. Harmonization techniques, the figure murmured. Dangerous. A small communication device crackled at his wrist. Report, came the distorted voice of the Arbiter leader. The vessel is attempting to permanently merge the chakra signatures. The spy responded. The Uzumaki girl has detected the bridge formations. A pause. This accelerates our timeline. Return to headquarters. The council must be informed. The spy vanished into the darkness, leaving no trace of his presence. Miles away, in a chamber hidden deep beneath the mountains bordering Fire Country, 7 figures in ornate masks gathered around a circular table. The chamber walls were covered in complex seals and diagrams depicting the reincarnation cycle across generations. The convergence progresses faster than anticipated, the central figure stated, voice echoing slightly behind an owl-shaped mask. The vessel has already demonstrated simultaneous chakra activation. Impossible, declared a figure wearing a snake mask. The preview's attempt resulted in catastrophic chakra collapse. The vessel's body was torn apart within days. This vessel is different, countered another, wearing a wolf mask. The Uzumaki Vitality combined the Jinchuriki containment adaptations has created unprecedented stability. Regardless, the owl-masked leader said, we cannot allow full harmonization. The cycle must be preserved as the sage intended. Are we certain that was the sage's intention? Asked the quietest member, whose mask resembled a fox. The prophecy suggests otherwise. The leader's voice turned cold. You question our mandate, Arbiter Fox. I question our interpretation, Fox replied evenly. For centuries, we've worked to keep Indra and Ashura's chakras separated through each reincarnation. But what if that was never the sage's will? What if the prophecy of convergence represents his true desire? Murmurs of dissent rippled around the table. Heresy, hissed Snake. The sage himself established our order to maintain balance. Did he? Fox challenged. Or did someone else use his name to create an organization serving their own ends? The leader slammed a hand on the table. Enough. Your concerns are noted, Arbiter Fox. But the council has made its decision. The vessel must be contained and the chakras separated before permanent harmonization occurs. He turned to an arbiter wearing a raven mask. Prepare the suppression team. We strike in 3 days, when the moon is dark. The council session ended, but Arbiter Fox lingered, studying the ancient diagrams on the walls. Something about this NCE felt different from previous attempts, more deliberate, as if guided by an unseen hand. And that troubled him more than the convergence itself. Dawn broke over the Senju forest, golden light LTERING through ancient trees as Naruto sat cross-legged at the center of a complex seal array. Karen knelt opposite him, hands forming the distinctive Uzumaki chakra sensing seal. The key to harmonization, she explained. as identifying the natural resonance points between different chakra types. Like finding complementary notes in music. Naruto closed his eyes, following her instructions to visualize his internal chakra flow. With concentration, he could perceive the two distinct signatures, Indra's chakra sharp and precise like lightning, Ashura's warm and expansive like sunlight. Don't try to force them together. Karen continued. Just observe where they naturally interact. Naruto focused, letting his awareness drift through his chakra system. Where the two energies met, there was friction, except in a few places. Particularly near his heart and eyes, where they seemed to blend more harmoniously. I think I found something, he murmured. There are places they're already connecting on their own. Good. Now gradually direct more of both chakras to those points. The process was delicate and exhausting. Each time he directed the chakras toward a resonance point, they would initially resist. Like magnets of the same polarity being pushed together. But with patience and subtle guidance, he could coax them into alignment. Hours passed as they worked. Miyuki and Hanako observed from outside the seal array, occasionally offering suggestions based on their clan's knowledge. By midday, Naruto had established 3 stable bridges between the chakra systems, small but significant. And connections that allowed energy to flow between Indra and Ashura's signatures without conflict. Try activating the Sharingan now, Miyuki suggested when they paused to rest. Naruto focused on his right eye, drawing on Indra's chakra through one of the newly established bridges. The Sharingan activated smoothly, without the painful resistance he'd experienced before. More surprisingly, it didn't trigger an automatic surge of Ashura's chakra in opposition. It's working, he said, amazed at how natural it felt. What about Ashura's abilities? Hanako asked. Naruto directed his attention to his left hand. Channeling Ashura's chakra, golden energy materialized around his fingers, not the full manifestation from the battle, but a controlled portion of it. Most remarkably, he could maintain both simultaneously without strain. The harmonization is holding, Karen confirmed, her sensory abilities tracking the chakra flow. The bridges are actually strengthening with use. Excitement energized the group. For the first time, controlling the dual inheritance seemed possible rather than a desperate struggle against opposing forces. We should test combat applications, Miyuki suggested. Quote, see how the harmonized chakra performs under stress. They moved to a larger clearing for sparring. Hanako and Miyuki took turns engaging Naruto in light combat, testing how the balanced chakras responded to different situations. The results were impressive. The Sharingan's perceptive abilities combined with Ashura's enhanced life force allowed Naruto to fight with both precision and overwhelming stamina. Techniques that would normally consume massive chakra reserves barely taxed him. It's like they were meant to work together all along, Naruto observed during a break. They complement each other perfectly. Perhaps that was the sage's original intention, Hanako suggested. Not division, but complementary strengths. As the day progressed, they developed training exercises to strengthen the chakra bridges and expand Naruto's control. By sunset, he could switch between Indra and Ashura's abilities fluidly, or use both in concert for enhanced techniques. That evening, gathered around the campfire again. The mood was celebratory. They had accomplished in a day what many would have deemed impossible. Tomorrow we should work on more advanced techniques, Miyuki suggested. Now that the basic harmonization is established, we can explore combining Uchiha fire techniques with Senju chakra enhancement, and Uzumaki sealing methods to stabilize the combinations, Karen added. Naruto listened to their plans. A strange feeling of contentment washing over him. Despite the extraordinary circumstances and looming threats, something about being surrounded by these 3 women felt GHT, as if pieces of a puzzle were finally falling into place. Hanako noticed his expression. What are you thinking about? The prophecy mentioned. Blood of both lines will be drawn to the convergence, Naruto said thoughtfully. I think it meant you 3. The women exchanged glances. There's definitely a pull, Karen admitted. I felt compelled to find you once I sensed the dual chakra signature. I experienced something similar, Miyuki confirmed, a certainty that I needed to return to Konoha after years away. The Senju records suggest such connections are part of the convergence process, Hanako added. Those carrying the bloodlines find themselves drawn into the vessel's orbit. Is it just compulsion then? Naruto asked, uncertain how to feel about people being magically drawn to him. No, Karen said firmly. The initial pull might be chakra resonance, but what's developing now is more natural. Miyuki nodded. The prophecy may have brought us together, but our choices keep us here. The conversation drifted to other topics as night deepened around them. One by one, they retired to their tents until only Naruto remained by the dying fire, contemplating how drastic his life had changed in less than a week. A soft footstep alerted him to Karen's return. She sat beside him, offering a cup of tea. Couldn't sleep, he asked. I wanted to check your chakra flow one more time, she admitted. The harmonization is still new, and sometimes connections can weaken during rest. Naruto accepted the tea gratefully. You're worried, cautious, she corrected. Wah, tea you're experiencing has never happened before. The previous convergence attempt failed catastrophically. What exactly happened to them? Naruto asked. No one's given me details. Karen hesitated. The Uzumaki records describe it as chakra rejection syndrome. The vessel, a shinobi from the era before hidden villages, managed to contain both souls briefly, but couldn't establish harmony between them. The competing chakras created a feedback loop that eventually consumed him from within. Consumed. His body literally burned away as the chakras fought for dominance. Karen's voice was solemn. The arbiters claim that's why the sage wanted the souls to remain separate, because unifying them is inherently unstable. But we've proven that's not true, Naruto pointed out. The harmonization techniques are working. They are, Karen agreed, which makes me question the arbiters' entire purpose. If harmonization is possible, why have they worked so hard to prevent it for centuries? Naruto stared into the embers. The prophecy mentioned, the arbiter of false balance who serves the shadow beneath shadows. What if the entire organization was created to prevent the convergence, not to maintain balance? By whom? The forgotten child, Naruto suggested. Whoever that is. They sat in contemplative silence, watching the last flames flicker out. Naruto became acutely aware of Karen's proximity, her shoulder nearly touching his. The connection between them felt both new and ancient, like meeting someone he'd known in another lifetime. Your chakra is doing something interesting, she observed quietly. What? Reaching for mine, she lifted her hand, showing thin threads of visible chakra extending from her fingers toward his. It's an Uzumaki trait, chakra externalization. But I've never seen someone respond to it without training. Curiosity overcame hesitation. Naruto raised his hand near hers, watching as his own chakra, tinged with both blue and gold, extended to meet hers. Where they connected, a warm sensation spread up his arm. What does it mean? He asked. It means we're compatible on a fundamental level, Karen explained. Beyond bloodlines or prophecies. It's rare, even among closely related Uzumaki. The implication hung between them, neither quite ready to acknowledge it directly. After a moment, they gently separated their chakra, though the warm sensation lingered. We should get some rest, Karen finally said. Tomorrow's training will be demanding. Naruto nodded, watching as she returned to her tent. The encounter left him with more questions than answers, but also a growing certainty that these connections, to Karen, to Miyuki, to Hanako, were more than coincidence or prophecy. They were pathways toward something important, perhaps even toward the reconciliation of an ancient conflict that had shaped the ninja world for generations. In the pre-dawn darkness, Naruto awoke to a sense of wrongness. The forest was too quiet. No birds, no insects. Not even the rustling of leaves despite the breeze he could feel on his face. Silencing jutsu, he slipped from his tent silently, Indra's chakra activating his Sharingan to pierce the darkness. The entire campsite was surrounded by chakra suppression seals, partially activated but not yet complete. The arbiters had found them. Moving swiftly, Naruto woke the others with hand signals they'd established for emergencies. Within moments, all four were gathered in the center of the camp, backs to each other as they assessed the situation. Suppression barrier, Miyuki whispered, her own Sharingan activated. Nearly complete. Once it closes, our chakra will be locked down. How many? Hanako asked, hands already forming seals. At least 12, Karen answered, her sensory abilities stretching outward. No. 15, positioned in a classic arbiter containment formation. We need to break the perimeter before the barrier activates, Naruto decided. Karen, where's the weakest point? Northwest corner. 2 operatives instead of 3. Naruto nodded. I'll create a distraction on the opposite side. Miyuki, Hanako, can you break through that corner when they're focused on me? Yes, they confirmed in unison. Karen goes with you, Naruto continued. Get to the Senju Sanctuary and activate the clan protections. What about you? Karen demanded. I'll be right behind you. Before they could argue, Naruto formed shadow clones and sent them charging toward the southeast perimeter, each flaring chakra in a distinctive pattern. As expected, several arbiters moved to intercept what they believed was the main escape attempt. Now, Naruto signaled. Miyuki and Hanako launched forward, combining Uchiha fire techniques with Senju earth manipulation to create a superheat tunnel through the forest floor near the northwest perimeter. Karen followed, laying disruption seals behind them to cover their chakra signatures. Naruto held his position, maintaining the distract until he felt the others break through the perimeter. Then he created another wave of clones, each using a combination of Indra and Ashura's chakra to confuse the arbiters, sensory tracking. He was about to follow the escape route when a familiar voice stopped him. Impressive coordination, convergence. The arbiter leader emerged from the shadows, owl mask gleaming in the darkness. Behind him stood 6 elite arbiters, each radiating dangerous levels of chakra. Your friends have temporarily escaped, but they won't get far, the leader continued. The council has declared full intervention protocol. There is nowhere in the 5 nations you can hide. Naruto straightened, allowing Indra and Ashura's chakra to flow freely. His right eye manifested the Sharingan while his left gleamed with golden energy. I'm not hiding, he stated, and I'm not going with you. You misunderstand, the leader said coldly. This isn't a capture mission. The council has determined that harmonization has progressed too far. You are to be neutralized, and the souls extracted for proper separation. You mean killed, sacrificed for balance, the leader corrected. As has been necessary before. Naruto's anger flared. Who gave you the right to decide that? Who are you really serving? The question seemed to catch the leader off guard. We serve the will of the sage. No, Naruto interrupted. You serve the shadow beneath shadows. The forgotten child who's manipulated everything from the beginning. For a moment, the leader's composure cracked. You know nothing of our purpose. I know enough. Naruto settled into a fighting stance. The sage wanted his sons to reconcile, not remain eternally divided. Your entire organization exists to prevent that reconciliation. The leader signaled, and the 6 arbiters moved in perfect synchronization, forming a containment hexagon around Naruto. Each began weaving complex seals. Soul extraction technique, the leader intoned. Prepare yourself, vessel. Naruto had seconds to decide his approach. Indra's tactical mind assessed the formation, identifying weaknesses in the northwestern position where an arbiter's hand movements were slightly slower. Ashura's intuition suggested pooling chakra at his core, preparing for an explosive release. For once, both aspects aligned perfectly on strategy. As the arbiters completed their jutsu, Naruto dropped to one knee, slamming both palms against the ground. The harmonized chakra erupted outward in a spiraling wave, disrupting the extraction technique at its foundation. The arbiters staggered but quickly recovered, switching to a secondary approach. 3 launched physical attacks while the others maintained a suppression field to limit Naruto's chakra output. Naruto met them with a cone. I-nation of Sharingan-guided precision and Ashura's overwhelming force. Each strike was economical yet devastatingly powerful, targeting vital points with uncanny accuracy. 2 arbiters fell within the first exchange, but the remaining 4 tightened their formation. The leader hung back, hands moving through seals Naruto had never seen before. Binding chains of judgment, the leader called, slamming his palm to the ground. Glowing chains erupted from beneath Naruto, wrapping around his limbs and torso. Unlike normal chakra chains, these seemed to feed directly on his energy. The more he struggled, the tighter they became. A technique developed specifically for the convergence, the leader explained, approaching slowly. It draws power from the dissonance between Indra and Ashura's chakra. The more you harmonize them, the weaker it becomes, but you haven't achieved full integration yet, have you? He was right. Despite their progress, The harmonization was still new, the bridges between chakra systems not fully solidified. Naruto could feel the chains finding points of remaining conflict, using them as anchors. But that gave him an idea. Instead of fighting against the chains or trying to harmonize further, Naruto deliberately amplified the natural conflict between the chakras. He pushed Indra and Ashura's energies into direct opposition at the points where the chains connected. The leader sensed what was happening too late. Stop him. The conflicting chakras created a feedback pulse that traveled along the chains, overloading the technique with contradictory energy. The chains shattered, releasing a shockwave that knocked the remaining arbiters off their feet. Naruto didn't waste the opportunity. He formed a Rasengan infused with both chakra types, Indra's precision giving it unprecedented focus, Ashura's power making it devastatingly potent. The spiraling orb glowed with both blue and golden light as he drove it into the ground at the center of the arbiter formation. The earth erupted in a controlled explosion, sending the arbiters flying in all directions. Only the leader remained standing, protected by some form of barrier technique. "You cannot defeat the full might of the arbiters," he warned. Though his voice carried a note of uncertainty. "We have existed for centuries, maintaining the balance you threaten." "Your balance is a lie," Naruto countered, advancing steadily. "And I'm done letting others decide my fate based on souls I supposedly carry." The leader backed away, clearly reassessing the situation. "This isn't over, Convergence. The Council. Tell your council I'm not interested in their approval," Naruto interrupted. "And tell whoever's really behind your organization that the cycle of hatred ends with me." For a tense moment, they aced each other across the devastated clearing. Then the leader made a single hand sign, and the remaining arbiters vanished in synchronized body flickers. "We will meet again," the leader promised before disappearing as well. Naruto stood alone in the ruined campsite, the harmonized chakra still flowing powerfully through his system. The battle had pushed him to new limits, but instead of exhaustion, he felt strangely invigorated, as if the conflict had further strengthened the bridges between Indra and Ashura's energies. He took a moment to center himself before heading in the direction the others had escaped. The arbiters would regroup, and next time they'd come with greater numbers and better preparation. They needed to reach the Senju sanctuary and formulate a plan. But as he moved through the forest, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had changed during the confrontation. The leader's reaction to his accusation about the shadow beneath shadows confirmed his suspicions. The arbiters were pawns in a larger game, one that had been playing out across centuries. And somewhere at the center of it all was the mysterious, forgotten child, who had manipulated the reincarnation cycle for their own purposes. Naruto picked up his pace, more determined than ever to uncover the truth. Not just for his own sake, but for the countless vessels before him who had suffered and died in a conflict they never fully understood. The Senju sanctuary appeared untouched when Naruto arrived, protected by ancient seals that made it invisible to those who didn't know its location. He found the others in the central building, already deep in discussion around a table covered with maps and scrolls. "Naruto." Karen was the first to spot him, relief evident in her voice. She moved toward him, chakra instinctively reaching out to check him for injuries. "I'm fine," he assured them, taking a seat at the table. "The arbiters withdrew after I disrupted their extraction technique. They attempted soul extraction." Miyuki's expression darkened. "That's forbidden even by their own covenant." "They're getting desperate," Hanako observed. "Which means we're on the right track." Naruto looked at the materials spread across the table. "What's all this?" "Historical records," Tsunade explained, having arrived while Naruto was dealing with the arbiters. "Everything we could gather about the Sage of Six Paths and his family. Most of it is fragmented or contradictory," Hanako added. "But we're looking for any mention of a third child or someone who might be the forgotten one from the prophecy." "And," Naruto prompted. "There are hints," Karen said, pushing forward an ancient text. "References to a shadow beneath the tree of creation, and a child denied the light." "Nothing concrete," Miyuki admitted, "but enough to suggest the sage may have had another child who was somehow erased from the main historical records." Tsunade sighed heavily. "The problem is that we're dealing with events from so long ago that even the most reliable accounts have been corrupted by time and retelling. We need direct information," Naruto realized. From someone who was there. The only ones who would know the truth are the sage himself and his direct family, Hanako pointed out. All long dead. Not exactly, Naruto said slowly, an idea forming. If I'm carrying Indra and Ashura's souls, maybe I can access their memories directly. The suggestion was met with concerned looks. That would be extremely dangerous, Tsunade warned. The human mind isn't ignited to contain multiple lifetimes of memories. And deliberately drawing on reincarnated souls goes beyond any known technique, Miyuki added. But it might be possible, Karen interjected, studying Naruto intently. The Uzumaki had techniques for communion with ancestral spirits. If we adapted them to focus specifically on the reincarnated souls, it's too risky, Tsunade insisted. More sky than waiting for the arbiters to return with reinforcements. Naruto countered. They're going to keep coming, and next time they might not focus only on me. The implication hung heavily in the air. Everyone present had now become targets by association. There might be a middle path, Hanako suggested after a thoughtful pause. Instead of trying to access all memories, we could focus on IFIC ones, particularly those related to the sage and this potential third child. The Uchiha had a technique for directed memory extraction, Miyuki offered reluctantly. It was rarely used due to the strain it placed on both parties. But it might serve as a foundation. Combined with Uzumaki's spiritual anchoring, Karen added, warming to the concept. And Senju life force reinforcement to protect Naruto's consciousness during the process, Hanako concluded. Tsunade studied their determined faces before sighing in resignation. I can see I'm outnumbered. But I want safeguards, multiple layers of protection in case something goes wrong. They spent the next several hours developing the technique, each contributing from their clan's unique knowledge. By nightfall, they had created an Elabora seal array designed to facilitate a controlled diving into the reincarnated souls' memories. As they made final preparations, Naruto found a moment alone with Tsunade. Are you sure about this? She asked quietly. Once you see their memories, you can't unsee them. It could change how you view yourself. I need to know the truth, Naruto replied. Not just about this forgotten child, but about Indra and Ashura themselves. If I'm carrying their legacy, I should understand what that really means. Tsunade studied him with a mixture of pride and concern. You've changed since this began. Matured. Having two ancient souls inside you will do that, Naruto joked, though his expression remained serious. But it's more than that. Meeting Miyuki, Hanako, Karen, learning about these connectio NS I never knew existed, it's like finding missing pieces of myself. The prophecy said, blood of both lines will be drawn to the convergence, Tsunade recalled. It seems that part is already fulfilling itself. Naruto nodded, glancing toward where the three women were making final adjustments to the seal array. It doesn't feel like coincidence or fate. It feels right, like we're supposed to be connected. Just be careful, Tsunade advised. Prophecies have a way of following their own path, regardless of our intentions. When everything was prepared, Naruto took his position at the center of the elaborate seal array. Miyuki, Hanako, and Karen took positions at 3 points around him, each responsible for a different aspect of the technique. Remember the anchoring visualization, Karen instructed. No matter how compelling the memories become, maintain awareness of your own identity. Focus on the specific questions, Miyuki added. Who was the forgotten child? Why were Indra and Ashura set against each other? What is the truth about the arbiters? And if anything feels wrong, any sense of being overwhelmed, signal immediately, Hanako finished. We'll pull you out. Naruto settled into a meditation posture, centering his breathing as the three women began channeling chakra into the seal array. The elaborate patterns glowed with increasing intensity, creating a complex network of energy around him. Beginning primary activation, Miyuki announced, her Sharingan active as she monitored the chakra flow. Spiritual anchors established, Karen confirmed, her hands forming the distinctive Uzumaki sealing position. Life force barriers engaged, Hanako completed, green energy flowing from her palms into the array. Tsunade stood outside the array, ready to intervene if necessary. Initiate the memory bridge. The three women synchronized their chakra, creating a resonance that vibrated through the seal array. Naruto felt a pulling sensation at the core of his being, as if something ancient was stirring in response. He closed his eyes and let himself fall inward, seeking the souls that had shared his body since birth. The world dissolved around him. Naruto found himself standing in a vast, empty space filled with swirling mist. Neither fully awake nor dreaming, he recognized this as some form of inner mindscape, similar to when he communicated with Kurama, yet distinctly different. "Hello," he called, his voice echoing strangely. "Indra, Ashura." The mist parted slightly, revealing two paths stretching before him. One radiated sharp, blue-tinged light, the other glowed with warm, golden radiance. Following his instincts, Naruto chose neither path exclusively. Instead, he walked between them, maintaining contact with both energies simultaneously. As he progressed, the mist gradually cleared, revealing a scene taking shape around him, a grand courtyard beneath a massive tree, unlike any he'd seen in the physical world. A man sat meditating at its base, power radiating from him in palpable waves. The Sage of Six Paths. Before him knelt two young men, one sharp-featured and intense, the other open-faced and earnest. Brothers, clearly, though their demeanors couldn't have been more different. "Father," the sharp-featured one, Indra, was saying, "I've developed a new technique for chakra manipulation. It allows for greater precision without sacrificing power." "Well done, Indra," the sage responded, his voice resonating with authority. "Your innovations continue to impress. I've been working with the villagers on collaborative chakra techniques." The other brother, Ashura, offered. "By combining their efforts, even those with limited individual capacity can achieve remarkable results." The sage's expression warmed noticeably. "That is the true path, Ashura. Power is meaningless without connection to others." Naruto observed the subtle shift in Indra's expression, a flicker of hurt quickly masked by pride. The interaction revealed volumes about their relationship dynamics. The scene shifted, showing a series of moments across years, Indra developing increasingly powerful techniques alone while Ashura worked alongside others, building community and connections. The sage consistently favoring Ashura's approach, leaving Indra feeling increasingly alienated despite his obvious talents. Then something unexpected entered the memories, a third figure, hovering at the edges of many scenes but never directly acknowledged. A slender youth with features that combined elements of both brothers, watching from shadows with eyes that held neither Indra's intensity nor Ashura's warmth, but something colder and more calculating. Naruto focused on this figure, willing the memories to reveal more. The scene changed again, showing a private chamber where the sage sat alone, head bowed in apparent grief. A woman entered, elegant, with the same distinctive features as the sage, though more refined. "You cannot keep denying his existence, Hagoromo," she said, her voice carrying both compassion and reproach. "Takuma has chosen his path," the sage responded heavily. "One that contradicts everything I've tried to teach. He is still your son." The woman, presumably the sage's wife, insisted. "A son who seeks to harness the Ten Tails' power without restraint." The sage shook his head. "Who believes chakra should be used to dominate rather than connect? I cannot acknowledge such ambitions. So you focus all your attention on Indra and Ashura, hoping Takuma will simply disappear." Her tone sharpened. "You're creating resentment that will outlive us all." The sage looked away. "Better resentment than destruction. Takuma's vision would return the world to chaos." The memory shifted again, revealing a confrontation between the sage and the third son, Takuma, now older and emanating dangerous power. "You deny me my birthright," Takuma accused, his voice eerily calm despite the rage in his eyes. "Indra has your vision, Ashura your compassion. What am I to inherit?" "Your brothers understand what you refuse to see," the sage replied. "Chakra is a gift to be shared, not a weapon for personal gain." Pretty words from a man who wields more power than anyone alive. Takuma countered. "You hoard your knowledge, deciding who is worthy of your precious legacy." "I protect the world from those who would abuse power," the sage stated firmly. Takuma's laugh was cold. "Then you should begin by looking in a mirror, father. Your judgment creates the very division you claim to prevent." The confrontation ended with the sage banishing Takuma from their home, declaring him unworthy of inheritance. As Takuma departed, his final words echoed ominously. "If I cannot have your legacy directly, father, I will claim it across time itself." The scenes began shifting more rapidly then. Fragmented memories of Takuma studying forbidden techniques of soul manipulation, creating an organization of followers devoted to true balance and eloping methods to influence the reincarnation cycle. Most disturbingly, Naruto witnessed Takuma secretly approaching both brothers at different times, planting seeds of distrust and resentment. To Indra, he whispered that Ashura was deliberately undermining him to gain favor. To Ashura, he suggested that Indra's power would inevitably corrupt him. The final memory showed Takuma performing a complex ritual as the sage lay dying. Whatever the technique was, it seemed designed to ensure that Indra and Ashura's souls would remain in conflict through subsequent reincarnations, never reconciling, always opposing. The cycle of hatred serves my purpose, Takuma murmured as he completed the ritual. While you two fight eternally for Father's approval, I will build my power in the shadows. And when the time is right, I will claim what should have been mine. The vision faded, leaving Naruto alone in the mist once more. But now two translucent figures stood before him, manifestations of Indra and Ashura. Appearing as they had in their prime. Now you understand, Indra said, his voice echoing strangely. We were manipulated from the beginning. Our conflict was natural at first, Ashura added. But Takuma amplified it, ensured it would continue beyond death. He created the arbiters, Naruto realized. Not to maintain balance as they believe, but to ensure you two would never reconcile. Both brothers nodded solemnly. Because if we did, Indra explained, if our reincarnated souls ever truly harmonized, we would recognize his manipulation, Ashura finished. And potentially end the power to stop whatever he's been planning across centuries. Is he still alive? Naruto asked. After all this time, not in body, Indra answered. But he developed techniques to preserve his consciousness between vessels, selected hosts who carry fragments of his will. The current vessel serves as the shadow leader of the arbiters, Ashura continued. Though most members are unaware of this, they truly believe they serve our Father's will. Naruto absorbed this revelation. So the forgotten child, from the prophecy is Takuma, and he's been manipulating events from the shadows all this time. A thought occurred to him. Wait. Is that why my chakra has both your signatures? Did something go wrong with his manipulation? The brothers exchanged glances. We believe someone interfered with his plans, Indra said. Someone with knowledge of both the reincarnation cycle and Takuma's manipulations. Our father, Ashura suggested. His consciousness persists in some form, as evident by his occasional appearances to worthy vessels. Perhaps he recognized an opportunity to break the cycle when your parents, with their unique bloodlines, created a child who could potentially host both our souls. That's why Takuma wants me eliminated, Naruto realized. I represent the first real threat to his plans in centuries. Not just eliminated, Indra corrected. He wants our souls extracted and separated again, continuing the cycle under his control. What exactly is he planning? Naruto asked. What's been worth centuries of manipulation? Again, the brothers exchanged looks of uncertainty. We don't know his ultimate goal, Ashura admitted. But each cycle brings him closer to something, some power or knowledge he believes will elevate him beyond even our father's abilities. The arbiters are gathering ancient artifacts, Indra added. Objects with connections to the original chakra fruit and the 10 tails. Whatever Takuma plans, it involves harnessing power similar to what created ninjutsu in the first place. The mist around them began swirling more rapidly, the mindscape destabilizing. Your friends are pulling you back, Indra observed. Our time grows short. What should I do? Naruto asked urgently. How do I stop him? Continue the harmonization, Ashura instructed. Complete what you've begun. When our chakras fully integrate within you, Indra explained, you'll gain abilities neither of us possessed individually, perhaps even rivaling our fathers. But be warned, Ashura cautioned, his form already fading, Takuma will sense the progress. He'll send everything at his disposal to stop you before completion, including revealing himself, Indra added as he too began to disappear. After centuries in shadow, he won't risk losing everything now. Remember, both brothers said in unison, their voices merging as they faded, the prophecy speaks of reforging what was broken. Not just our conflict, but something larger, something our father intended from the beginning. The mist closed in completely, and Naruto felt himself being pulled upward, back toward consciousness and his physical body. His last thought before emerging was a determination that had crystallized through everything he'd witnessed. The cycle of hatred that had persisted for generations would end with him, one way or another. Naruto gasped as consciousness returned. Finding himself still at the center of the seal array, Miyuki, Hanako, and Karen looked exhausted but relieved, while Tsunade hovered anxiously nearby. "Did it work?" Tsunade asked immediately. "What did you see?" "Everything," Naruto managed, his voice hoarse. "The sage, his sons, and Takuma." "Takuma," Hanako repeated. "The forgotten child," Naruto confirmed, slowly rising to his feet with Karen's assistance. "The third son of the sage, denied inheritance and erased from history." Over the next hour, he recounted everything he'd witnessed in the memory dive: Takuma's rejection, his manipulation of his brothers, the creation of the arbiters, and his continued influence across centuries. So the entire conflict between the Uchiha and Senju clans, Miyuki began, was artificially amplified by Takuma's manipulation. Naruto finished. The brothers had real philosophical differences, but Takuma ensured those differences became a reconcilable hatred. "And the arbiters," Hanako said slowly, "an organization supposedly dedicated to maintaining balance, actually exists to ensure Indra and Ashura's souls never reconcile," Naruto confirmed. "Because if they did, they might recognize the manipulation and gain the power to stop whatever Takuma's been planning." "Which is what exactly?" Tsunade pressed. "That's still unclear," Naruto admitted. "Something involving ancient artifacts connected to the original chakra fruit and the 10 tails. Whatever it is, he's been working toward it for centuries. And now you threaten everything," Karen realized. "By achieving what was supposed to be impossible, harmonizing the brothers' chakras within one vessel." Naruto nodded grimly. "Which means the arbiters' attack was just the beginning. Takuma won't risk losing centuries of planning. He'll come with everything he has. Then we need to prepare," Tsunade decided, her expression hardening with resolve. "If this Takuma has manipulated events from the shadows for generations, bringing him into the open could be our only advantage. We'll need allies," Miyuki pointed out. "People we can trust who won't be easily manipulated. And we need to complete the harmonization process," Hanako added. "If the brothers believed that would give you power comparable to the sages, then it's our best chance against whatever Takuma has become," Karen finished. Naruto looked around at the 4 women, each now intimately connected to his unusual destiny. Despite the gravity of the situation, he felt a strange sense of rightness, as if pieces long scattered were finally coming together. "The prophecy mentioned reforging what was broken," he said thoughtfully. "I think it means more than just Indra and Ashura's conflict. It means healing divisions that have shaped the entire ninja world for generations. Starting with the Uchiha and Senju," Miyuki suggested, "and extending to all the divisions that stemmed from their original conflict," Hanako agreed. Tsunade looked at Naruto with new appreciation. "You know, when I first heard about this convergence business, I thought it was just another prophecy, vague words open to interpretation. But now it feels like something that's been waiting to happen." Naruto completed, "a correction to a path that was artificially diverted long ago." As dawn broke outside the sanctuary, illuminating the ancient trees that had stood witness to generations of conflict, they began forming plans for completing the harmonization process, for gathering allies, and for drawing Takuma out of the shadows where he had operated for too long. The cycle of hatred that had defined the ninja world for centuries was approaching a crucial turning point. And at the center of it stood Naruto Uzumaki, no longer just a Jinchuriki or a ninja of Konoha, but the vessel in which ancient wrongs might finally be set right. Chapter 1 End. Chapter 2. Divided Loyalties. Morning sunlight filtered through ancient trees surrounding the Senju sanctuary, dappling the ground where Naruto stood in meditation. 2 weeks had passed since his journey into Indra and Ashura's memories, and each day since had been devoted to mastering the conflicting chakra signatures within him. "Again," Hanako instructed, circling him with analytical eyes. Her red hair was pulled back in a practical braid, revealing the determined set of her jaw. "The transition should be seamless, not sequential." Naruto nodded, closing his eyes. He visualized the chakra pathways Karen had helped him map, conduits of energy running through his body like rivers joining and diverging. With practiced concentration, he directed Indra's electric blue chakra through his right side while simultaneously channeling Ashura's golden energy through his left. The result was visible even non-sensors, a balanced aura that shifted from blue to gold across his body, meeting in perfect harmony along his center line. Better, Hanako acknowledged, studying the flow with expert eyes. The integration point is holding steady. It still feels like balancing on a knife edge, Naruto admitted, maintaining the difficult equilibrium. Like both sides are constantly trying to pull me in different directions. That's the nature of their power, came Miyuki's voice as she approached from the main building. Opposing but complementary forces. The Uchiha woman carried scrolls tucked under one arm, her dark hair lifting slightly in the morning breeze. Despite the weeks of intensive training, she maintained an elegant composure that reminded Naruto of the aristocratic bearing all Uchiha seemed born with. Any news from Tsunade? Naruto asked, carefully releasing the chakra manifestation. Messages from her scouts, Miyuki confirmed. Arbiter movement has been detected near 3 of the ancient sites we identified. They're gathering artifacts as we suspected. Naruto frowned. For Takuma's endgame, whatever that is. The revelation of the sage's forgotten third son had transformed their understanding of the situation. What had begun as Naruto's personal struggle to control unexpected power had evolved into something far more consequential, potentially the culmination of a Sentu Rise-long manipulation that had shaped the entire ninja world. Karen wants to see you, Hanako mentioned, a hint of something unidentifiable flickering across her face. She's made progress with the chakra harmonization seals. We'll continue forms training this afternoon, Miyuki added, her tone making it more command than suggestion. Naruto nodded, accustomed now to the subtle competition between his instructors. Each woman approached his training differently, Hanako emphasizing senju techniques of expansive chakra control and connection to natural energy, Miyuki focusing on the precision and visual jutsu mastery of the Uchiha. And Karen developing specialized seals to stabilize the integration of both. Their methods were different, but their goal was the same: prepare him for the confrontation they all knew was coming. He found Karen in the sanctuary's sealing chamber, surrounded by elaborate chakra diagrams that glowed with gentle blue light. Her red hair was tied back, revealing the intense concentration on her face as she modified an array on the floor. You're getting better at suppressing your chakra signature, she noted without looking up. I almost didn't sense you approach. Miyuki's stealth training, Naruto explained, kneeling beside her to examine the complex seal. Something about Uchiha techniques for masking presence during reconnaissance. Useful. Karen finally looked up, pushing her glasses higher on her nose. I've modified the stabilization array based on yesterday's readings. The frequency oscillation between Indra and Ashura's chakras is decreasing, they're harmonizing more naturally. I can feel the difference, Naruto agreed. The transitions are smoother, less jarring. Karen placed a hand on his arm, her sensory abilities instantly mapping his chakra network. The touch lingered longer than strictly necessary for diagnosis. Your pathways are adapting, she observed, her voice softening. Creating new connections that shouldn't be possible. It's remarkable. The air between them felt suddenly charged. Over the weeks of training, these moments had become more frequent, brief connections that hinted at something developing beyond their professional relationship. I had another dream last night, Naruto said, breaking the tension. About the sage and his sons. More fragments, but clearer than before. Karen's expression turned serious. What did you see? A conversation between the sage and Takuma. The sage was explaining why he couldn't entrust his legacy to his third son. Naruto's brow furrowed in concentration. He said, something about Takuma, seeing power as an end rather than a means. That tracks with what we've pieced together about him, Karen noted. Unlike Indra, who valued power for protection and advancement, or Ashura, who saw it as a tool for unity, Takuma apparently viewed power as inherently desirable for its own sake. But there was something else, Naruto continued. The sage mentioned the fruit. Its corruption, having too strong a hold on Takuma. I'm not sure what he meant. Before Karen could respond, they felt a pulse of chakra, the sanctuary's perimeter alert. Someone's approaching, she said, immediately on alert. But they've passed through the outer barriers. Friendly. Then, are very, very skilled. They moved quickly to the main building where Miyuki and Hanako were already waiting, tense and vigilant. Through the trees, two figures approached, one immediately recognizable as Tsunade, the other a tall, slender woman with long dark hair. Izumi Uchiha, Miyuki identified, relaxing slightly. My cousin. The newcomers entered the clearing, Tsunade's expression grave as she nodded in greeting. Beside her, Izumi offered a formal bow, her intelligent dark eyes quickly assessing Naruto with undisguised curiosity. The situation has escalated, Tsunade announced without preamble. The Uchiha clan elders have formally requested Naruto's presence for evaluation of hereditary chakra manifestation. Evaluation, Hanako repeated skeptically, or acquisition. The request is politically motivated, Izumi confirmed, her voice soft but assured. News of Naruto's Sharingan activation has spread through inner clan circles. The elders see it as an opportunity to strengthen their position in the village. By claiming me as one of their own, Naruto concluded. Even though I'm not actually an Uchiha by birth. Blood connections can be creatively interpreted when power is involved, Miyuki said dryly. It's not just the Uchiha, Tsunade added, her frustration evident. The remaining Senju representatives have submitted their own petition, citing ancestral chakra reconciliation as justification for taking over your training. Hanako's expression darkened. They've been largely ceremonial figureheads for generations. Now they suddenly care about clan responsibilities. They care about power, Tsunade corrected. Just like the Uchiha elders. Just like every political faction that's caught wind of what's happening. And that's the real problem, Izumi interjected, stepping forward. Word is spreading beyond Konoha. My intelligence network reports increase. Activity from both Orochimaru's organization and the Akatsuki. Everyone wants the vessel carrying both Indra and Ashura's chakra. The gravity of the situation settled over the group. What had begun as a personal journey had become a focal point for power struggles across the ninja world. So what's the plan? Naruto asked, feeling the weight of multiple gazes fixed on him. We can't keep you hidden indefinitely. Tsunade acknowledged. The sanctuary's protections are strong, but determined forces will eventually find a way through. I need to return to Konoha, Naruto realized. Face this head on. Not alone, Karen said immediately. Of course not, Miyuki agreed. We'll accompany you. All of us, Hanako added firmly. Naruto felt a surge of gratitude toward these women who had become his guides and protectors. But beneath it lay concern about the growing attachment he felt toward each of them, connections that seemed to deepen with every passing day. There's something else you should know, Izumi said, her eyes meeting Naruto's directly. The Sharingan you've manifested, it's evolving in an unprecedented pattern. The reports describe a design no living Uchiha has seen before. Is that significant? Naruto asked. Potentially revolutionary, Miyuki explained. The Sharingan's pattern reflects the user's spiritual energy and perceptive abilities. A new pattern suggests developing capabilities beyond established Uchiha limits. Which is exactly why everyone wants to control you, Tsunade concluded grimly. We return to Konoha tomorrow. Be prepared for intense scrutiny and political maneuvering from all sides. As the others dispersed to prepare, Naruto remained in the clearing, contemplating the path ahead. The sanctuary had offered a peaceful reprieve, a place to explore his new abilities without external pressures. Returning to the village meant stepping into a nest of competing agendas and hidden motives. You're concerned, Izumi observed, having lingered behind the others. I've never been good at politics, Naruto admitted. Direct confrontation, sure, but navigating clan politics and hidden agendas. Not exactly my strength. Izumi smiled slightly. Perhaps not Naruto Uzumaki's strength, but Indra was a master strategist, and Ashura had a natural gift for building alliances. Those instincts live within you now. It still feels strange, Naruto confessed. Having memories and abilities that aren't really mine. Aren't they, though? Izumi moved closer, her expression thoughtful. The Uchiha believe chakra carries the essence of those who wielded it before. Not just techniques or abilities, but wisdom and perspective. So what? I'm supposed to be Indra and Ashura now. No, she said firmly. You're supposed to be what they never had. The opportunity to become harmony rather than division. The completion of a cycle, not its continuation. Something in her words resonated deeply with Naruto. Not pressure to fulfill a prophecy or meet others' expectations, but permission to forge his own path while honoring the legacy he carried. "Why did you come here?" he asked suddenly. The others all had reasons, clan responsibilities, research interests. "But I don't know your motivation." Izumi hesitated, her composure momentarily slipping to reveal vulnerability beneath. "I've spent my life studying Uchiha history, particularly the spiritual lineage connecting us to Indra. When I felt the chakra resonance weeks ago," she paused, choosing her words carefully. "It was like recognizing something I'd been searching for without realizing it." The admission was more personal than anything she'd shared previously. Before Naruto could respond, she composed herself, the brief openness replaced by professional detachment. "My expertise in Sharingan evolution will be valuable for your continued development," she stated more formally. "The elders trust me to represent clan interests while remaining objective." Naruto sensed there was more she wasn't saying, but he respected her desire to maintain boundaries. "Well, I appreciate another ally in whatever's coming." "You have more allies than you realize," Izumi said enigmatically before departing to join the others. Left alone, Naruto turned his attention inward, reaching for the now familiar presences of Indra and Ashura within his consciousness. Since the memory dive, their distinct personalities had become more accessible to him, not as invasive influences, but as perspectives he could consult. "How do I navigate these clan politics without being used as a pawn?" he asked silently. Indra's strategic mindset offered calculated assessment. Everyone seeks advantage. Identify their true motivations, then position yourself as necessary for their goals while advancing your own agenda. Ashura's perspective countered with a different approach: build genuine connections beyond political alliances. Those who value you as a person, not just a power source, will become your true strength. Both valid, both incomplete on their own. The challenge, as always, was finding balance between them. Naruto opened his eyes with new determination. He would return to Konoha not as a passive vessel to be claimed or controlled, but as someone forging his own path with the wisdom of those who came before him. And he wouldn't be doing it alone. Konoha's atmosphere had subtly changed during Naruto's absence. As their group passed through the main gates, he noticed the guards' barely concealed interest, the whispers that followed their progress through the streets, the evaluating glances from shinobi of various clans. Word had spread, despite Tsunade's efforts at containment. The Jinchuriki who had once been an outcast was now the center of intense speculation and interest. "News travels fast," Karen murmured beside him, her sensory abilities undoubtedly picking up the focused attention directed their way. "Especially news that shifts power dynamics," Hanako added from his other side. They made their way directly to the Hokage Tower, where Tsunade had arranged a private meeting with clan representatives. The large council chamber was already occupied when they arrived, Uchiha elders on one side, Senju representatives on the other, with various village officials positioned between them. Naruto recognized Makoto Uchiha among her clan's delegation, her composed expression revealing nothing of her thoughts. On the Senju side, several dignified elders he'd never met watched him with poorly disguised fascination. Tsunade took her position at the head of the chamber, her presence commanding immediate attention. "Let's dispense with pleasantries," she began bluntly. "We're here to address the unprecedented situation regarding Naruto Uzumaki and establish protocols moving forward." An elderly Uchiha man leaned forward. "The manifestation of Sharingan in someone outside our clan is a matter of significant concern. Our records indicate no precedent for such an occurrence." "There's no precedent for any of this," Tsunade countered. "Naruto carries both Indra and Ashura's chakra signatures, a convergence of bloodlines that transcends normal hereditary patterns. All the more reason for proper Uchiha guidance," Makoto spoke up, her voice measured. "The Sharingan requires specialized training to master safely, as does the enhanced life force and chakra capacity of the Senju," countered an elderly woman from the opposite delegation. "These abilities have been the domain of our clan for generations." Naruto felt like a prize being negotiated over. The political maneuvering was exactly what he'd dreaded, everyone seeing him as an asset to be acquired rather than a person with agency. "If I may," he interjected, stepping forward. The room fell silent, all eyes turning to him. I appreciate both clans' concern for my development. But I've spent the past weeks working with instructors from both lineages, finding ways to integrate these abilities rather than treat them as separate domains. His words were met with skeptical expressions from both sides. Integration is theoretically interesting, one Uchiha elder said dismissively, but practical mastery requires specialized clan techniques passed down through generations. Techniques I've been learning, Naruto responded, allowing a hint of Indra's authority to color his tone. Under Miyuki Uchiha's guidance, I've achieved 2 Tomo activation with sustained control. This caused a stir among the Uchiha delegation, with several exchanging surprised glances. Similarly, he continued, Hanako Senju. You has helped me channel and direct the enhanced life force energy that comes from Ashura's chakra. These are basic fundamentals, the Senju representative argued. True mastery, as what concerns us all, Tsunade interrupted firmly. Which is why I'm proposing a joint training protocol that incorporates expertise from both clans. The expected objections erupted immediately, with both sides arguing for exclusive oversight. Naruto watched the display with growing frustration, feeling the competing chakras within him responding to his emotions, Indra's cold calculation analyzing political weaknesses. Ashura's empathy sensing the fear beneath the posturing. Enough, he finally said, his voice carrying unexpected authority that silenced the chamber. Both chakra signatures flared visibly arrow-wound him, blue lightning crackling along his right side, golden energy illuminating his left. This is exactly the division that's weakened both clans for generations. All eyes fixed on him, many widened at the visible manifestation of dual chakra. The Sage of Six Paths had a vision of unity that was corrupted after his death, Naruto continued, drawing on fragments of memory that weren't originally his. Indra and Ashura were set against each other by manipulation, creating a cycle of conflict that has shaped the ninja world ever since. The statement was met with confusion from most present, but Naruto noticed recognition in the eyes of the eldest members of each clan. The Arbiters, Makoto said quietly, the name causing several elders to stiffen. You know of them? Tsunade asked sharply. Ancient legends. One Uchiha elder admitted reluctantly. Guardians of balance between opposing forces, particularly the spiritual energies of Indra and Ashura. Not legends, Naruto corrected. A very real organization that has maintained the separation of these chakras for centuries, and recently attacked me to prevent their harmonization. This revelation caused greater consternation, with urgent whispers passing through both delegations. They serve something called the Forgotten Child, he continued. The third son of the sage, erased from history, who has manipulated the reincarnation cycle from the shadows. Preposterous, declared a Senju elder. The sage had 2 sons, as all our histories record. Your histories were deliberately altered, Karen interjected, stepping forward with a scroll bearing ancient symbols. These Uzumaki records reference a third son named Takuma who was denied inheritance and subsequently removed from official accounts. The chamber erupted in debate again, with clan elders demanding to examine the evidence and questioning its authenticity. Through the chaos, Naruto caught Makoto's evaluating gaze fixed on him. Whether you accept this revelation or not, Tsunade's voice cut through the noise, the threat is real. The Arbiters have already attacked once and will certainly do so again. Our priority must be preparing Naruto to control his abilities for his protection and the villages. After much debate, a compromise was reluctantly reached. Naruto would divide his training between specialized instructors from both clans, with regular progress assessments by a joint committee. The arrangement satisfied no one completely, a hallmark of true compromise, but provided structured framework moving forward. As the meeting disbanded, Makoto approached Naruto directly. Her expression unreadable. Walk with me, she requested quietly. They moved to a private balcony overlooking the village, the setting sun casting long shadows across rooftops and monuments. You've changed, she observed after a moment of silence. There's something of Itachi in your bearing now, a gravity that wasn't there before. Coming from Sasuke's mother, comparison to his prodigious older brother carried significant weight. I'm still figuring out who I am with all this, Naruto admitted. Sometimes I feel like 3 different people arguing in my head. A hint of sympathy softened Makoto's expression. The Uchiha have always believed that our connection to Indra runs deeper than mere technique or bloodline. His perspective, his understanding of the world, these things shape us even when we're unaware of their influence. You believe the legends, then. About the third son and the manipulation. Makoto turned to gaze over the village, her profile regal against the sunset. There are scrolls kept by the clan heads, records not shared even with our own elders. They speak of a shadow that has guided our conflicts from the beginning, though its nature and purpose remained unclear. Takuma, Naruto supplied, perhaps. She turned back to him. What matters now is that you represent something unprecedented, a potential end to the cycle of conflict that has defined both our clans for generations. Which is why everyone wants to control me, Naruto noted. Control, influence, guide, the terminology differs, but the intent remains the same. Makoto's expression became more solemn. Be cautious, Naruto. Even those who believe they act in your best interest may serve agendas you don't yet recognize. Including you, he asked directly. A surprising smile touched her lips. Especially me. I am Uchiha to my core, with all the complexity that entails. Her expression sobered. But I am also a mother who has seen the damage caused by clan politics and ancient grudges. Whatever else happens, I would not see those patterns repeated with you. Before Naruto could respond to this unexpected candor, they were joined by Izumi, who bowed respectfully to her clan's matriarch. The elders are requesting your presence, Lady Makoto, she informed them. They're reviewing the training protocols for Naruto-san. No doubt finding ways to extract maximum advantage. Makoto noted with subtle irony. To Naruto, she added, remember what I said. Question everything, even well-intentioned guidance. After she departed, Izumi remained, studying Naruto with thoughtful eyes. The meeting went better than expected, she observed. If you consider being treated like a contested territory, better than expected, Naruto replied with a hint of bitterness. They see the power, not the person wielding it, Izumi acknowledged. It's always been the Uchiha way, assessing capabilities first, individual character second. And what do you see? Naruto asked, genuinely curious about her perspective. The question seemed to catch her off guard. She hesitated, her usual composure momentarily disrupted. I see someone carrying a burden they didn't ask for, she finally said. Her voice softer than usual, but also someone uniquely capable of bearing it. The simple honesty in her assessment touched Naruto more deeply than elaborate praise would have. The elders have assigned me as your primary Uchiha instructor, she continued, regaining her professional demeanor. My specialization in visual jutsu makes me well suited to guide your Sharingan development. At least I'll have one instructor I can trust, Naruto said with relief. Izumi's expression complicated. Trust is valuable, but remember Lady Makoto's advice. Question everything, including me. Now you sound like you're trying to make me suspicious of you. I'm trying to keep you alive, she corrected. The political landscape.